In December of 2018, the Big World Big Adventures era of Thomas had fully taken over. Thomas was completely different. All the new merchandise that was being revealed sucked a whole lot. Like, who would buy this?
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass.
However, it seemed that David Mitton looked down upon the world and said, "Let there be a buyable Thomas prop." Because it was literally revealed to happen. Wait, what? Okay, so first off, what is a cool prop? Cool Props is a Japanese company that specializes in recreating props from movies and television. They have done a lot of Godzilla work, but also have done some Ultraman. Wait, what is an Ultraman? In December of 2018, Cool Props announced under the Cool Props Vintage range that they would have a selection of Thomas props for sale. This was huge! A Thomas that looked exactly like the show that would be available for purchase? Sign me up! Keep in mind, this was when doing Gauge 1 Thomas replicas was for cool kids only. The model had two prototypes, the first being this one, which is clearly very rough. Looks promising, but I prefer to see something a little more final. Ah, there we go. Now this looks exactly like the model. This item was originally meant for Japan, but after more interest came from other parts of the world, Cool Props announced that they were opening pre-orders to customers in the United States and the United Kingdom. Speaking of pre-orders, how much did this cost? Well, for Thomas himself, it cost $750. If you wanted the Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle, you'd have to pay more, making the total around $1,600. Let's talk about the products. With Thomas, you get the model, a display track, a plaque, which showed which one out of the bunch you got, and a variety of faces, depending on which version you buy. If you got Thomas himself, it would be a smirking face, a tired face, clearly based on Season 1 for some reason, and a smiling face. More on this particular face later. In the Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle pack, 3 display tracks were given instead of 1. The faces here were the smirk and smiling faces, as well as an angry and surprised face. Annie and Clarabelle also had different expressions. Quite the package deal, and seeing that this will be a high quality replica, it seems worth the price, right? Over the rest of 2019, Cool Props showed off the model alongside a set of twins joining the range. Yes, Bill and Ben are to be made by Cool Props, but as of the making of this video, not much progress has been made, although I'm sure progress should happen sometime after Cool Props' next announcement. For the 75th anniversary, Cool Props announced their LBSC Thomas model, based on the livery from the Adventure Begins special. The faces also have a yellow tint, just like the CGI series. It was a little more expensive, being $875, but it was also a limited model to 100 units. This was a wonderful surprise. Cool Props seemed to be really promising now. Everyone was trying to scourge up the money for these, but soon enough, trouble was brewing. The first of many delays began when the pandemic caused multiple stay-at-home orders, so production had to be halted. This was understandable as, well, pretty much everyone had to stay at home for a certain reason. We kept seeing all the updates of samples and builds throughout this time, showing just how much work Cool Props was putting into these models. They also promised people that there would be another face added to compensate for the wait. After a poll, this smiling face was chosen. A good option, though I would have liked to see this sad face. It's the only missing expression. There was another delay in 2021. It was scheduled for release in 2022, then June 2023 after Chinese New Year slowed production down, and when June 2023 rolls around, add another month. And even in July, we don't have confirmation that these were shipped out. Finally, after many delays, the Cool Props Thomas and Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle replicas were released in August. We're still waiting on the LBSC Thomas, but a final sample has been revealed, meaning these should be released soon. But in the 5-year wait, the Gauge 1 community changed. The Gauge 1 replica part of this fandom has grown exponentially since Cool Props announced their models. You can make your own Thomas for way cheaper by buying a 3D printer and all the supplies you need. I can think of buying a good $250 printer alongside all the putty, paints, finishes, and other supplies coming out to just $350. You could also make your own Bill and Ben and Annie and Clarabelle. And you could also switch it up and make your own LBSC Thomas. And it's not limited to Thomas, there's tons of characters. And you could base it on a different era of the show, classic or hit era. You didn't have to make the original version of Percy, rather the brass model made for Tatmar. If you don't want to do all the work, commission someone in the fandom to do it. Want to do the entire process yourself? There are so many references from the original show now that it's possible to make an episode in the style of Season 5. And there's also so many replicas now that at many train shows with Thomas fans displaying, there's bound to be a Gauge 1 Thomas display. What I'm trying to say is that you can make your own Gauge 1 Thomas for less now, so comparing it to $700, it's more desirable to make it yourself. Let's dive away from the community for a bit and look at the final model's aspects. It looks good. The iMech functions, there's working lights, the wheels roll nicely, and the measurements are the closest we'll get to the actual brass model from Magic Railroad. However, Cool Props had to cut some corners with this model, the seam lines being the most noticeable. This was being compared to the 20-year-old Bachmann model, which has very visible seam lines around the same part of the cab. I know this is a way to make production easier, but come on Cool Props, surely there was another way. You might say that I'm nitpicking, but you just paid $700 for this model that was advertised to be completely accurate. Annie and Clairbout I've heard have inaccurate paint, and the wheels in some units do not roll. Huge fail. It seems that paying an extra $800 isn't worth it. But for a cool collectible, I think it's actually really nice. This is something I put on the mantle above my fireplace or on a display on a shelf in a train room. Back to the Gauge 1 community, this model has provided some advantages. For one, we have accurate measurements of the brass model. As of the making of this video, however, LBSC Thomas has yet to ship, but it hopefully should be before 2025 ends. Bill and Ben prop replicas are also still in the works, however it may be some time before we hear any word on this. Cool Props also missed on a huge money-making opportunity by showing off a cranky replica, but it was only for display. I probably would have bought one, but it would probably be a heck of a job to be able to ship it to America. I have thought about buying a Cool Props Thomas for myself, but I probably would only have one in my possession if I got it as a gift or something. But what do you think? Do you want a Cool Props Thomas? Do you have a Cool Props Thomas? If you do, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you have to say. That'll be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.